I'm going to open it up just for 3 questions. Not comments, not statements, questions. So I see Ishmael, Elvis, and because the politicians, well, this is a table of politicians now, and they're the young politicians. Okay, so Ishmael, Elvis, and then the 2 honorables in the front here. Just note that we've stopped having interpretation because we've run over time terribly, so my sincere apologies for those who are not able to follow on the interpretation. But questions, not statements. So Ishmael, then Elvis, and then the honorables in the front. Please.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. I'll direct my question to Dr. Patrick. And just to start by saying, I think this is a very important conversation. These are conversations that need to be had at national level, at regional level, and at platforms such as this. A lot of what has been said in some of the previous panels has been action. What needs to happen next? Where can we take this action? So my question would be, is there a platform that exists where, when we're talking about reparations, we can
Ishmael, please, sorry, just kindly be upstanding. We want to make sure that we capture you. So some of you, again, that will be asking questions, there's a request for our videographers. If you can stand up so that they can get a good shot. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me find my trail of thought. So, is there a platform where we can bring this conversation, where us as countries, coming from a united front as the African continent, can hold those that are responsible to account, and where we are bringing this discussion of reparations, where we can actually see tangible actions? Is there a platform that exists? So this is something, a discussion that we need to, is it one that where we need to create this platform? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ishmael. So is there a platform where we can have this conversation? Elvis.
Thank you, Jason. Elvis is my name for avoidance of doubt. And I will just, first of all, start by a statement, and then I'll put up the question, because, you know, this is a very important conversation. And when our leaders are involved, everything rises and falls upon leadership. And we have seen a lot of issues when it comes to our parliaments in Africa. The independence of parliaments is something that we have a lot of questions about, because in as much as we may talk about a lot of things, and the powers that parliaments have, especially in coming up with laws, and I like what the Secretary General for AYPN has been speaking about regarding coming up with laws. But how independent can these laws be? Because we have seen a lot of times parliaments just coming up with laws that favor what the executive has said. So the question of independence of these parliaments. And again, the other thing is about the existence of so many structures that we have. We have the Pan-African Parliament. When you go to East Africa, we have the East Africa Legislative Assembly, and their role so far in terms of coming up with enough legislation and policies around these issues. So I would just like to also urge our members that, yes, we have donated powers. Sovereign powers normally belong to the people. You have donated powers to represent the people. But in many cases, our leaders have failed to represent the people and have always represented the interest of the executive. So I would just want to ask all the members there, what capacities do you have to put those executives in check? Because those are the people who get into these dealings with the multilateral agencies and everything. So do you have capacity? That is the question, because many times we have seen you shy away, and like in Kenya, you saw what happened in 2024, where the people had to take back their power and the finance bill had to be recalled after the people intervened. So I just want to let you know, where you fail, the people shall. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Elvis.
Thank you, Jason. I'd love to thank the panel. I'd love to thank the panel for such a vibrant and informative presentations they've made before us. As a legislator, I think now I have a direction through these presentations that are going on here. My question is based on what Honorable Kanye spoke of when she spoke of reparations. She mentioned something like official apologies that should be done openly. I want to know, my honorable, because you know, as legislators, we are not just listeners, but we want to implement. We represent our constituencies. So once you say something, I have to take it up and go to implement it. So I want to know the how part, how best can we do that? If we can be able to do it, I thank you. And I also want to declare that AYPN is ready to work in collaboration with Pan-African. If they have a challenge, we can take it up. We are still vibrant. We can run around and help them. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable.
Thank you so much. I am Amira Saber, a member of the Egyptian Senate and an ex-parliamentarian. I have a question that came to my mind, linking a parallel between how the world embraced the trauma of the Jewish people after the Holocaust and how it denied totally what happened to the Africans after the enslavement and the exploitation of the resources and everything else. How millions of pounds have been paid as reparations and recognition, and you might even get accused of being anti-Semitic if you're just by any mean contradicting or holding the Jewish state accountable for criminal actions. Everyone, I think, is following up what is happening in Gaza now. Back to the link. What do you think is missing? What did the Africans didn't do so that the reparations and the memorialization and everything related to our narrative is not there? It's not there at all, and it's completely ignored.
Thank you. Thank you very much for those comments and questions. I took 3 questions that came out, and what I'll do is we'll start with Honorable Machabana, and we'll move away, so to my left. In 1 minute, please, an attempted response and your closing remark, because we do need to close as it's getting to 7 p.m.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason. I'll just attempt to respond to the question about the independence of parliaments. In most African countries, there is a challenge with regard to independence of parliaments, because in order to have a government, you would have the majority of members of parliament forming, being in government and leading the government. So in our case, it's a little bit odd because almost all the committees of parliament are chaired by those that have numbers. Definitely, it would be those that are in power, in government. And therefore, our work will kind of be, not really be for the people who send us, but would normally be what cabinet wants. The only other committee that is not chaired by a member of the government party is the Public Accounts Committee. And it is the only committee that people rely on for anything and everything that they want. You just need to have a strong members of parliament and strong leadership of the Public Accounts Committee. Then I think everything can be possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Zungulu.
Thank you. I'll be brief as well to say perhaps we need to put more focus on ensuring that we've got institutions that work, institutions that fulfill their legislative mandate. There are constitutions all across the different countries that inform what parliament's powers are and what to the extent in which they can best represent the people. Now, the issue, it is the members of parliament or the executives that are embedded in interests that are not aligned to the interests of the people. And the powers that be, whether it's multinational companies, it is foreign governments, they are going to find a way to co-opt some of our leaders. So that is why I would maybe make a point to say we need to do what Fanon says when he says each generation has got a mission. So our mission must not be that we become those who are exempted from the struggles of the people that we are representing. Rather, we must be a generation that will tilt or change the entire system so that all of us as Africans were able to share, were able to live good quality of life. Because if you look at the nature of the resources that we have in the continent, there is so much and there is enough for all of us to actually lead good quality of lives. The issue, it is the leaders that want to just be exempted from the struggle. So they will not go into parliament with a view of uprooting the system, changing the system. As long as the problems that affect many people do not affect them, then those people, they are fine. And lastly, when we speak about the issue of backing up what we're saying by law, I think it is the most critical issue. You'll recall in 2020 there was COVID-19, and there were many countries embarked on lockdowns. Now, if you look at that social engineering that was done by governments when they introduced laws to say you can't go outside if you are not wearing a mask, there are some things you can't do if you are not wearing a mask. Mentally, when you stepped out of your house not wearing a mask, your mind told you there's something wrong. So we need to find a way to say, how then do we use the law and how then do we use politics so that Africans ask themselves, without reparations being paid, something must be wrong. It can't be that, when you speak about the issue of reparations, it is something that is abstract in the minds of the people. We need to make it a reality so that there is no conversation that is had in parliament, in communities, in labor unions, everywhere, without touching on this very important aspect of reparations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Zungula. Dr. Patrick.
Thank you, Jason, and thanks to the people who asked the questions. The first thing, Madam, I want to respond to you and to tell you that there is one fundamental, tool that we should manage and make sure that we put it right. It's power. You spoke about Israel and you spoke about what they were able to do to have reparations and all those things. It's just about power, full stop. And I said it this morning, unless, African countries are able to be, stronger and powerful, there is no one who will care about reparating anything or doing something. We can shout, we can cry, we can sing, and it will take another century, but no one would ever listen. I'm taking an example on the African soil. You saw after the genocide in Rwanda, and it is an extremely painful, situation that I'm describing, but look at what Rwanda was able to do when they were able to rebuild power. It is not, a good example that I'm giving, but I'm just giving you an idea of what the use of power can do to transform the narrative of something into a powerful engine of sovereignty and, economic development. That is what Africa needs to do, because if we continue to discuss and not put ourselves into action to work and to transform our economies, there is nothing that we can expect. I said it this morning, and it is so embarrassing for us who are, negotiators that are, in big spheres, the G20 and the other spheres. When you sit down with people and that you want to talk about, normal forward-looking issues, and then you start discussing about, we need wheat and we need food, when you start that conversation, or when you sit on the table and then you see, I need support, what do you expect? And then you say, I want you to reparate me, to give me to... No, nobody listens to you. The first thing you have to make right is that you are able to feed yourself correctly to wear your clothes and to make sure that when you stand in front of people, you speak the language, thank you, the language that they can listen. That is what I said this morning, and I'm insisting on that. We will cry, we will sing, we will do whatever we want. I'm telling you, when we sit at the table that we are negotiating, there is nothing I can do. An example, last week we had the TICAD summit, and personally, it is absolutely, a loss of credibility and dignity if 55, sovereign countries can sit in a room with one country to discuss their future. It's wrong. We have to sit here to discuss our issues. We may have difficulties today, and I'm concluding with that. Those difficulties, for me personally and for us at the African Union, for those who have that sense of, purpose, we are absolutely convinced that we have all the instruments at our hands to make things work better for this continent. The only thing we have to do is to make sure that we work hard. Because I took an example I was discussing with the gentle lady sitting here. You have to be aware of the fact that Africa in the 1960s, coming from the colonial era, was able to be donor to countries that were in difficulties in Asia. I don't want to name a country. But 4 decades after, we are all queuing 55 sovereign member states to go and beg for bowls of soups and, rice to people we were feeding 4 decades back. It tells you only one story. If you don't put your house in order, if you don't do things right, no matter what you will do, you can sing any song that you want to sing, and we will help you singing it, but no one will ever listen to what you are saying if you are not strong. I'm taking the last example. When you look at China, the power they have today is built on one fundamental, belief that they have, is that they can do it all. And they have been able to achieve it in just 4 decades. They were able to show that what Europe achieved in centuries, they achieved it in 4 decades. It is telling you one last story, that if we put our things right today, we will see Africa shining in the next 4 decades and be able to sit on the table and say, we want you to send back our artifacts, we want to send back our traditional, how do you call it? Traditional artifacts that you have taken to us. That's the reality. But unless we are powerful, there is nothing to expect. And that is where I'm concluding to say that we have the firm conviction and belief that Africa will transform, that Africa will become the engine of the development of the world. But to do that, we have to be serious. And I think it came from the panel here. Unless we are serious, nothing will happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Patrick. Honorable Kanisile.
Thank you. I think I will start with the easy question.
But very briefly, I'm sorry, now I have to be a little bit stern. I'm so sorry.
Can you trust, thing is the response might not be that quick to the question. Can you trust Parliament? You need to change the structure. I played a game once in Arusha in a meeting of NGOs, and I was with Honorable Shitagwa, and Jason, you were there, where we said to people, put your phones down and talk to me about the name of your electoral system, how it works, what are its gaps, what are its strengths. They could not. They couldn't. So if you are using a system as citizens that you yourself do not understand, how do you think that system is going to deliver anything effective for you? That's one. Because I sit here and tell you that it is not Parliament in itself, it is the system that Parliament uses. If you go to Parliament through a political party, and your party becomes the ruling party. Those people that you see in parliament, whom you call ministers, in the party, they are your leaders. So do you really, sitting there, think that that MP is going to challenge that minister in parliament, knowing that when they go back to the party, that's the very person that holds the key if you're coming back here as an MP or not? Let's be real if we want to solve this problem and put it on the table and not gloss over it. So the system needs to change. It is this bad. In South Africa now, there's a government of national unity where the ANC got 39%, and I take my hat off for South African Gen Zs because they registered in numbers to take the ANC out. The ANC was out, but we still need a ruling party. That's the system. That's how it's designed. What does the ANC do? It invites the DA into the government of national unity. The EFF MK says we are not joining this with the races that we are going into bed with. Now, the other smaller parties are joining. Now you're getting ministers from parties that have gotten far less votes than the EFF and MK, but they're in the government of national unity. They're in bed with the ANC and the DA, so they get to be ministers. So study the electoral systems, because if we don't know how they work, we will never get them to account and to assist the MPs in holding the executive accountable. That's my answer to you. How can we make them issue a national apology? That is the job of the AU, and I'm glad my brother Patrick is here. The AU should fight for this because it represents us all. In the AU, we are all represented. If the AU fights for it and issues a decree on it, it will trickle down to national level. But apology must happen because apology has happened for the Jews. I mean, they are lucky. They know 5 million died. We don't even know how many. It's estimated at millions. We don't even have a cut-off number. So for me, the AU really, because they have declared this as the year of reparations, they should really champion this, but we can assist as NGOs also to fight for this on the sidelines also, and as MPs. How has the Jews, why has it happened to the Jews, you asked, my sister, but ours was forgotten. I think Patrick has given a practical answer. I want to give another practical answer. It's simple. That's why Tax Justice Network Africa, that's why AfroDAT, they are fighting together with their allies to change the global political and financial architecture. There is no other response to that except one word: racism. I got to Germany in February this year. I was asked to speak in a museum. The first thing I asked Germans was, why are you paying millions of dollars to the Jews, but you're not paying the same amount to the Herero of Namibia, where you exterminated 80% of the population? The following morning, they put me on the anti-Semitic list. I wear that badge with pride. So I will never enter Germany again, but guess what? I really do not care, because I was asking a legitimate question. There is no response to that except it's racism, because the global political architecture supports Israel. So whatever Israel does is right because America and Britain stand with them. That's why their cause is not forgotten. If you look at the news right now, the atrocities committed in Gaza and those committed in Ukraine, which one far outweighs the other? But what is the West reporting in their media? Ukraine. Do they report on Gaza? Maybe, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Israel is even telling us this is not genocide. Starving a whole population is not genocide. So for me, it's global financial and political racism, which is why we need to join the support of AfroDAT and TGNA to really demand for a change in how the world is run. Then we can do the other things that Patrick raised and talked about, but we need to change it at that global level. Because we don't even have a name, are you aware? For the Jews, it's easy. If you say anything about the 5 million, you're anti-Semitic. It's easy. Do you know we don't even have a word for the crimes committed against us? Tell me one word. You have to issue a long sentence for the slavery and for the colonialism and for the neo-colonial. We don't even have one word. So, hope I've answered the 3 questions.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kanisile.
Yes, to round it all up, I would want to say that Patrick mentioned that we have to be self-sufficient. In terms of raising our own domestic revenue, we are always found wanting. So we tend to depend on the easier way out, go in for more loans. So until we are self-sufficient, until we work together, until we can provide our own basic needs, nobody will be ready to listen to us, and nobody would want to hear any suggestions or any contributions that we put on the table, because here is a situation where you can't even take care of yourself. So I believe that forums like this will help us come up with frameworks that will bring us together, work with one common purpose to pursue this agenda. But finally, I also think that we should learn to tell our own story. Look at the Europeans. Let me use BBC as an example. In America, let me use CNN as an example. When the Arab world found out that their stories were not being told as it ought to be told, they found Al Jazeera. Have we asked ourselves, as Africans, do we have one common medium of communication that will tell our story the way we want it to be told? We don't have. So we should be thinking about some of these things. Now, everything that happens in the Arab world, Al Jazeera will put their side of the story so that the story is not compromised. And that is how I believe we can also move and make progress. If we have one common purpose, one common communication channel that will tell our story the way we want our stories to be told. Because if we don't tell our stories the way we want it to be told, one, it will not get the leverage that it ought to get, and two, we will not benefit from telling our story. So I think AU is something you should think about. That how old are we? We should think of getting one communication medium where we can also tell our story the way it ought to be told. And so when we have forums like this, it will be published, it will be told consistently, and then people will see that it's not always about famine in Africa, it's not always about hunger in Africa, it's not always about corruption in Africa, but there are brighter sides of Africa that if we work together to harness, the world, the world and everybody can benefit in a way that we all deem fit. So that is what I think we should do. Tell our story, but tell our story our own way to tell the truth to the world. Thank you.
Thank you all very, very much, and to participants, friends and comrades for staying the course. We've come to the end of this panel. Please let's give a round of applause to the panel once again. Thank you all very, very much.